For May 13th, 2024. And we always start with an invocation, so I'm going to ask Mac, if you'll stand, we'll ask Mac to give the invocation tonight. No, you can sit down.
If you don't care, I'm gonna sit down. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day and for your goodness to us. We thank you for this time that we can be together to discuss the business of this city. We ask you to help us to be fair and equitable in all cases. Forgive us of our sins and our shortcomings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay. Thank you, Mac. Let's do a roll call today.
Chairperson Leach.
Here.
Board Member Pendley. Here. Board Member Qualls.
Here.
Board Member Sharp. Board Member Zitzow.
Here.
Thank you. And thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. We had minutes sent out earlier for the November 13th meeting. Have you had time to look at that? I believe I must send it out. If you've had time to glance over those minutes, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes
As written?
accurate.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, good. We have an old case tonight, and before we go over that, I'm gonna go over the way we conduct our business here at the Board of Appeals. And composition of board, we're just folks that live in the city of East Ridge. Our property owners, we are not employed by the city of East Ridge, although we do have several East Ridge staff here. Purpose is to hear and decide appeals from the standards of the zoning ordinance, which was adopted by the city of East Ridge in 1989. And there are specific standards stipulated in the zoning ordinance for practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. Hardship must be due to unique circumstances that is particular to the particular lot. Hardship must not be self-created, and any variance granted must not result in substantial detriment to the public health, safety, and welfare. We're quasi-judicial body, which means we can hold public hearings, we can conduct investigations, and make decisions based on the evidence presented. This is based on specific standards established by state law and by the local ordinance. We do not have any punitive authority. We cannot fine anyone, and we cannot enforce any of these standards. That is done by the City of East Ridge staff. Our decisions are final and binding, and any appeal from our decisions are made to a court of competent jurisdiction, which is not the East Ridge City Council or the East Ridge City Courts. It is a court of competency downtown. As I stated, we are an administrative board and have only the authority we are granted under state law and the East Ridge zoning ordinance. The hearing has been properly advertised.
Yes, it has.
Thank you. And our format is we'll hear the request from the applicant. We do send out information prior to the meeting that our board can look at. If you want to see what we were sent, you're privy to that. Mostly it's the application, but we do send out some information for the board's information so they can consider these cases with full knowledge. So the old business we have, you remember last year we had a case 2023 Joe Wilson, 2023-3 Joe Wilson, 607 Southmore Road. You'll remember we continued that from the November 13th meeting, which we postponed basically 6 months, which was today. So we had moved to postpone it, and the action, Mike, if you want to address the board about what Mr. Wilson has done, I would appreciate that.
Yes, as everyone recalls, he had a survey done on this property. He was actively looking at possibly purchasing the rear of the property to extend his garage area. I think that ended up falling through with that, but during the survey, it came back that I think his fence line was actually on the adjacent property owner. So at that point, I think the discussion fell through with the adjacent owner, and then he decided just to move his garage forward and use the existing slab that was already there.
So, and as I recall, I'd had the opportunity to drive by. I don't know if everybody else did, but he's well underway on the construction, and he did some things that we talked about, which was remove that oddball wall that was on the south side of his property, and so he had more room to work with. So,
He did, yeah. I think in the end, it all worked out pretty good for him.
so what we'll do, we did postpone that. Well, I'll need a motion to dismiss the case as presented by Mr. Wilson, and we can do that because his building permit's issued and is active, and he's well on his way.
That's correct.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to dismiss this case, VR 2023-3, Joe Wilson.
I'll make a motion to dismiss.
Okay, have a motion?
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? And this will be basically without prejudice. I mean, I guess if he runs into another issue, he can come back to the board with a separate case. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. I'll entertain a vote. Let's do that by roll tonight.
Board Member Pendley? Board Member Qualls?
Yes.
Board Member Zitzow?
Yes.
Chairperson Leach?
Yes. Okay, thank you. That should clear Mike's, at least one case out of his docket.
One case cleared, yeah.
One case out of the docket. Okay. We do have several cases tonight. The first case under new business, and Mike and I had talked about this a little bit offline about, this is the Greenbrier subdivision case. One thing Mike and I talked about, one of the issues that was filed with the case was whether or not, case, here it is, whether or not this was a variance for the frontage, whether or not it was determined that this was a flag lot or not. If you look at your information we sent, and we took their survey drawing and enhanced it a little bit.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, we'll get to that in just a second. And so I was just trying to clear up my agenda because one of the issues was the amount of frontage on a right-of-way. If it was determined this was a flag lot, then we really don't need to discuss this much more. Would that be correct? If it was a flag?
Yeah, if it is a flag lot, it does meet the intended road frontage. If this body does adhere to the, I guess, definition of what a flag lot actually is.
Yeah, and I made a copy of that for the board. And this is just out of the zoning ordinance. It stipulates a flag lot has 25-foot frontage on the public road. So, Mike, your opinion is yes or no flag lot, or?
In my opinion, a flag lot connects to the rear of an adjacent lot with a narrow portion extending to the front right away. In my opinion, this would not be a flag lot.
Okay, so we do need to handle that.
Yes.
Then. Okay, then that takes care of that. Okay, let me read the information on under new business, and then we'll let the applicant make his pitch to us, and we'll discuss the case. Okay. So under new business A, VR 24-1, proposed lot 2, Greenbrier subdivision from Nicholas New, 5103 Beulah Avenue, East Ridge, to reduce side yard setbacks from Article 5, Section 200, height and area regulations. Subsection D, there shall be a side yard on both sides of the building of not less than 10 feet. The applicant is requesting a 6.58 foot setback for property located at 5319 Greenbrier. As a part of that, and I think I'll just go ahead and read this, VR 24-1, proposed lot 2, Greenbrier subdivision from Nicholas New, 5103 Beulah Avenue, East Ridge, to reduce front setback from Article 5, Section 402, height and area regulations, subsection C. Yards with a minimum depth of 25 feet shall be provided along any public street or right-of-way. The applicant is requesting a reduction to 13.53 feet for property located at 5319. Then the next variance, same lot, proposed lot 2, Greenbrier subdivision, from Nicholas New, 5103 Beulah Avenue, East Ridge, to reduce the required road frontage as stipulated in Article 5, subsection B. The minimum lot frontage shall be 75 feet. The applicant is requesting to reduce the lot frontage to 25 feet for property located at 5319 Greenbrier Road. Mike, did I get all of those correctly?
I'm sorry.
Did I get all that correctly?
Yes, yes. I mean, this is it's kind of a very convoluted
It is.
request here. So you have a duplex. Well, let me start. Basically, this is a legal non-conforming structure located in the R1 district. R1 district allows one single-family dwelling per lot. Applicant is seeking to subdivide this property, subdividing creates all these different variances for your fronts and sides, as well as the frontage on both these properties. So, lot 2, if you can look at your site map you have here, has requested a front yard reduction and 2 side yard reduction and a road frontage reduction. We discussed the flag lot. We determined that is a flag lot. Lot 1, that is 5325 and 5327 Greenbrier, has requested a side yard reduction and a rear yard reduction on these. So, Steve, if I'm adding this up right, are these 6 variances, or would you agree with that, or
Yeah.
6
I
variances?
just was unsure about the flag lot.
Okay.
What were we going to call that? Okay. Now, we'll have the applicant come forward and make his presentation. One thing you might do as the applicant, you might let us know, I did try to look this up, but I didn't find the specific dates, when that secondary house was built on this lot, because the duplex appears to be a regular built duplex, and this other existing house on lot 2 appeared to be basically a garage that was converted. So if you have any information that can help us understand when these conversions took place and if building permits were issued or any of that.
As far as my understanding.
Can you introduce yourself to the board and your address, please?
I'm Nicholas New. My address is 5103 Beulah Avenue, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
I'm Rory Sherry Marion, 310 East Brow Lookout Mountain.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Rory Sherry Marion,
Spell that, please.
SCERRI-MARION. Parents are hippies.
Okay. Who's the spokesperson?
I can speak. I'm the owner. Nick works for my company.
Okay. Okay, we've gone over, Mike has gone over the separate variances for both lots. Lot 2 and Lot 1. Prior to your arrival, we were discussing whether or not Lot 2 was a flag lot or not. The staff has determined it's not. So we need to, then we'll have to have a frontage variance too. So that's sort of where we were when you walked in. If you'll give us some information about this, and we'll see what we got.
Yeah, so as far as you asked about the conversion, correct, and our understanding when it was built?
But also, you know, like, what are you aiming to do here? You've got
Get the quick, I'll make, that's
these
easy.
two lots. I mean, what's the big picture? You're aiming to subdivide this for,
Big picture is when we purchased the property, the house in the back is a full, single-family home. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
the house in the back, meaning
That's
that-
5319.
Okay. It was a
That's
what?
a full, single-family home, always has a little carport to the left of it. It's kind of shaded. And then to the right, I don't know if that was converted, but it certainly seems like it's a built duplex, has a garage on the right side. It's a 1-bedroom with a full, like, portico where that, where like the I don't know what you call it, the, like a entryway, the actual entryway is right in the center of the building. It's split, the left side of the duplex is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and the right side is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. But there's a full, like, atrium, come in, walkway separated. It looks like it was planned that way, as opposed to like some sort of conversion that was done later. So it's a duplex and a single-family home. We bought it all as one lot. It makes a lot more sense to just make this a single-family home, make a fence along that line. You have this massive driveway. You could park, 7 cars there. So just make it the only, for me, my understanding was the only thing that was the variance originally was the actual point at which the houses are, the front right corner or the southeast corner of the single-family home and the northwest corner of the 5325 duplex. Those are the only ones that it's like a non-traditional side, it's like 15 feet between them, something like that. And so if that wasn't there, this house was even moved over anywhere in the property. You can see it's a monstrous lot. Even if we gave a backyard to each, they're really big lots and big properties. So for us, as the owners of the property, it makes more sense not to have that single-family home as a rental. We would eventually probably just sell that and keep the duplex and make that, just sell it to some family or something like that, the single-family home. That's the plan.
And currently, the distance between those two corners is non-conforming, right? Like they're.
That's the part, that's the variance we've been working on with the city.
That's why I assumed it was a garage at one point before it was converted.
It's,
But-
I mean,
'cause the
it
way
has
that-
1950s, 1940s
Right.
crown molding. It's got like mahogany floors. It was a nice single-family house. If
Right.
anything, I think the duplex may have been built after the single-family house, like in the 1960s.
Is there a reason your proposed division, the property line, couldn't hook back out to the right such that it would have the conforming amount of street frontage?
If you guys tell us how you would, we did it with the surveyors and the engineers in the city based on if you've been to the property, how the front looks, what we thought made the most sense. But we certainly we're amenable to anything that the city would want or the council would want so that we're happy. We just think it doesn't make sense as a triplex because it's a true single family and a true duplex. It shouldn't all be one. So any way that you guys would suggest with the city, we're amenable to.
Mike, this is R1,
Mhm.
which would allow duplex, but,
It would not. Basically what this is, it's a legal non-conforming with 2 structures on it and also a duplex, so
I mean, we've got an existing duplex in R1 right now,
that's correct, yes.
non-conforming.
That's non-conforming as well, yep. And a lot of this stuff came about, as Steve knows, when a lot of this was zoned urban residential out here. Duplexes were allowed, that's why you see single-family, duplex, single-family, and so forth through East Ridge. That fell under the urban residential, yeah, in East
Well,
Ridge.
interesting, Mike, in the old days, before 89, you could actually have 2 houses on the same lot in East Ridge, which was a carryover from the county zoning ordinance, if it was subdividable. So maybe that's how they got permitted, I don't know.
Very well could be.
Certainly before our time. Like, this is, I think the one house on the right, the duplex is actually do you guys have the date?
I don't have the date, but when I purchased it, the owner had owned it for 25 years and said that they didn't do the conversion.
It looks to me, like I said, I build in 11 states, that this is about a 1960s build, and the house in the back is like a 1930s or 40s build. Based on what the crown molding is and all, the original wood molding, et cetera, et cetera. And that house was kept by the guy who lived there for like 26 years or something crazy. Renter.
So, the sum of the, you'd be aiming to get the frontage variance to reduce to 25 feet. The side you need,
Yeah, it's figured out on this.
Yeah, there's several
you
variances.
need a couple feet on the left and a couple feet on the border between the two. Is that right?
Which
Well,
one?
lot two, there are a couple of variances.
Okay, so
And
lot
lot-
2 needs a variance and lot 1 needs
Okay.
a variance.
Yeah. I know
Well,
that
lot
better.
two needs several variances.
Yeah.
And lot one needs one variance, which is a side yard.
That being the distance between the two.
Correct, and that's why we had that blown up, so you could actually read it. I couldn't read the distances on the original, so Mike blew it up for me.
Okay, cool.
For the front to remain 75, let's say hypothetically you could move that property line out. What ballpark neighborhood would 75 feet be? Is that the neighborhood of that?
Well, you got 25 feet on there, that'd be 3 times that. That'd be right in the middle of the
Front, the
the
yard. there, yeah.
duplex, yeah. Because it's got 133 feet remaining, so it had about 200 feet originally. I know, that's not right. 150 feet originally. So you'd basically be dividing it in half.
I guess, I don't, okay, what's the upside here? I mean,
Yeah, question for you, Mr. Mayor. The truth is the duplex we would like to hold and rent long-term. So it does make sense if the council would rather have us, because we thought about it as even, like, oh, duplex and house. But the truth is, if you brought out the front, I could fence off almost to, it's hard to tell in this picture, but I could fence off and make a walkway going straight up and give part of a front yard to that east side of the driveway and come back to the single-family house. We could do that. I didn't think about it like that, but it, just from an aesthetic perspective, but it would give more of a front yard and it would make that house, obviously we could meet the requirement. And then obviously the duplex has a monster backyard. So because it's a rental property as opposed to a single-family home, you don't have to have as grandiose of a front yard. You could do that where we could get more. I just didn't think about that.
I don't think I'm following all that.
So if I'm understanding the zoning requirement for the single-family home, we're trying to figure out how to get the 50 or 75 feet across the frontage, going basically west to east. So if you were standing in front of the house, you'd realize that this is a pretty big 2-3, car width driveway that goes down to the front of the house. So I envisioned it being that basically they just have a big driveway, and then we were gonna make it so the single family, we'd cut all this brush back and make a big backyard. But what I'm saying is if the requirement, and you correct me, Michael, is that we need 75 feet of frontage for that house?
Not yet, you don't. I mean, 25 is good, but you're recommending to extend.
I'm recommending to extend over and effectively put like a fence to make a front/side yard for the house, right? Is that what you guys are suggesting, like an L?
I'm just asking, I was curious if it was to be compliant, how far up would 75 feet be? And the question's answered almost half the lot. It would be pretty impractical, but,
Well, I think, did you have discussions with your surveyor? Because they know the requirements for flag lots, and that's
They've
the
been in
reason
direct
it ended
contact
up with
the
25
city.
feet, right?
Yeah, I mean, if this body wanted to look at this and actually have the applicant turn it into a flag lot, then you wouldn't need a variance for the road frontage on this. I mean,
How would he do that?
well, there again, you would more than likely lose this setback here and just make it into a flag itself as it comes back. So you'd probably end up losing that variance request and just cutting it to the back and making a traditional flag lot out of it.
Yeah, but are you saying you'd have to move the building or?
No building, just, yeah. Depending on how the surveyor comes out. So if we're looking at this as being the flag lot, instead of coming all the way to
Right.
back here, he would take this lot line and move it to the back here and make a traditional flag lot out of this. And so then you would lose this what is it, 13.76
Right.
setback there.
Uh,
But you'd still have all the variances, the four
Sti-
variances. that
That's
are
right,
needed
you're still gonna have the variances regardless, yeah.
does staff have a preference on,
Best, I mean, working this out, it's very difficult to subdivide this, just the way the positions of the houses are on this lot. If the duplex was slid over a little bit to the east, it's, probably wouldn't have an issue with this, you know. You'd have a lot more clearance here in this little area here, but I think you know, from staff's point of view, this is the best case you can get out of this, unless this body wants to truly turn this into a flag lot here.
so if we do as suggested, the flag lot for lot 2 and take the back of lot 1 and make that a traditional flag,
Mhm.
do we still need the 25? The 25 is then,
And that's a done
We're-
deal.
we're good,
It
okay.
meets that requirement,
that
yes.
would be one variance not needed.
Unneeded,
Frontage,
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That may be, that may be a work through for you guys. Okay, but we still,
That would get rid of two variances, correct?
to
That'd
get,
get rid of the 25-foot road frontage.
Road
And it
frontage
would
is,
get rid of that 13.76 foot,
correct.
so you'd just be down to 4.
Well, no, 13's okay.
It would be okay with a
would be
flag
okay,
lot.
yeah.
Yes, yeah, well, it was 10, normally 10 feet, right?
10 feet.
So 13 is fine,
Okay.
the way it is now, so that's not a variance. The variances are all down there
They're all the corners.
between the existing duplex and the house. And it's 6.53, and they need 10 feet there. And then 13.53, which is a front, they need 25 there. So you've got two specific ones on lot 2. And then on lot 1, you'd have that 7.54 side yard, you need 10 feet there. And would you need would you need 25 foot on that 13.44?
Mm-hmm. That'd be a rear yard.
You need a variance there?
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 on both of them, right?
Yes,
Okay,
2 on each.
right. Okay, let's do lot 2 first, though. Let's talk about lot 2. So there's a 6.58 proposal, and you need 10 feet there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a side yard, and there's a 13.53 front yard, and you need 25 feet.
Correct.
Okay, those are the two, everybody clear on that? Those are the 2 variances we need for lot 2. And that's all we're talking about, lot 2.
Yes, lot 2.
Now, the assumption is you guys are gonna re-subdivide. So that's based on that assumption.
Let me express a bit of concern here. So you've got a duplex that's in a single-family neighborhood, and don't really have an extenuating circumstance as to why we would go outside the bounds of the normal setback rules. But what you're asking to have done here is to go outside that, setback rule for the sake of dividing these properties to essentially create value, just basically so you can sell off one of the lots. And it seems to be sort of to the detriment of the neighbors that they're getting already a non-conforming, they got a duplex with a not really sort of bootleg existing house tacked on, that by giving the variance, we're solidifying that in stone. That will forever be a divided lot, a higher density spot.
Sure, so what I can say is if you we're okay if we had, the point is, we can keep it as a single-family rental, which we can do forever, in perpetuity, like as it sits, which was our original plan. And I told Nick that, and again, he's the finance guy, the fancy guy. I'm just a builder. But it makes sense for us, and if you went to the property for the city, there's 2 different driveways on the property. There's one driveway for the duplex, and there's one driveway for the single-family house. The rear yards are monstrous, and right now the single-family has been also using the backyard of the duplex because it's so big. If we went in there and we cleaned out some of this brush that you see in the back, it's still bigger than most backyards in a lot of areas in Eastridge and Chattanooga. I mean, there's huge property lots here, but it's still look good. From where I'm from, it's a really good big backyard. So you got the parking and you got the backyard. So again, the surveyor and Michael have been really generous with us. They've been giving us all the guidance. We kind of just said, whatever you think is the smartest thing for Eastridge. The surveyors we had like a plan that we thought made sense, and they said, that's not gonna fly. So they put together a plan with Michael to like set the cross. They're doing a little diagonal between that gives enough so that the council is not having to do wild variances, but it sounds like the one is only a 3.5 foot variance we actually need, right? 6.5 feet, we need 3.5 feet. So that variance would be gone if we had 3.5 feet. It's this far. So it's like that variance, that's the biggest thing. When you say detriment, that's where the neighbor's corner, to the neighbor's corner would be in the future. We're gonna put a fence there, and then we're gonna run that all the way back to separate that. And we'd also like to run the fence all the way up to the street so that the driveway for the single-family house is effectively, because it's totally separate. Like, other than, that's a rear exit, but not even the primary exit for a duplex rental. And that's the primary entrance for the single-family house, which also has a secondary entrance under the carport, which is most likely where people are gonna be coming in and out of their house after they park. But if you went there and you saw the houses, they are two unique properties, and other than that one corner, it makes the most sense to split them truly, than keep them all on one. Because then it will only ever be traded to an investor. Like, if we sold it, it would be an investor then buying this property, not a person living there. Because it would be a rental. It's just rental property, and as opposed to making a single-family home for the neighborhood, which is the single-family home.
So you're aiming to turn the duplex back to single families?
No.
The duplex is a duplex. There's two renters in there. Unless they don't pay rent, we won't take them out. The single-family house was an older gentleman who was there forever. He has subsequently left since we've owned it, just sitting empty. We didn't want to rent it until we knew what was going to happen here. That's what was the impetus for this. He moved out after a long time. We didn't even know he was going to move out. He just moved out. Now the house is sitting there empty.
Your goal was to sell it separate
I
as a
think
single
now,
family?
rather than rent it as a single family again, Nick brought to my attention that it makes a lot of sense to just have this be its own single-family home. And then we would sell the single-family home, we would, get permits, fix it up or whatever as a single family, bathroom or kitchen or whatever, and just sell it, and then make sure that it feels, is a single-family residence. And that's what I was saying, and we could make an additional fence to really, separate anything on the two different properties. But right now, it looks like two different properties, but it's one property. So we're trying to officially make it two properties. And Michael, he's been there. I mean, you could attest to it. If you guys went, you'd see. Looks like two properties.
It does, and it does look a little kind of screwball as well. Like I said, it looks like the property of 5319 really wasn't meant to be there, and it kind of came to be. Like I said, to do this, we would be solidifying that for eternity. I've got some reservations about that, whether that would be the proper thing to do to allow that to go forward in terms of the distance between the two structures there is my biggest concern.
To be honest, if you look up top at 5324 and 5326, those are the lots that are on the north side. The 5322, you can't see the address. I think that the original property was 5322, and it might have run all the way down, and even this little bump out in the back is an addition of 5319, the house. That little thing, that's just a back room, and he actually has like a machine or a tool shop that's below grade in the back. It doesn't connect into the basement or the crawl space of the house. That was an addition. I think the original house and property was 5319. Somebody who owned this 50 years ago decided that they were going to, either they own the whole lot or they own multiple lots, and they just plopped that duplex right down, right in the front there. That's the irony, is I think that the 5319 house is the oldest structure. That was the original house on the property. So whether 5313 even existed when they built 5319, nobody knows. It could have, because you see that's kind of a non-conforming, angled shape.
5313.
Are you
That's the neighbor's house to the west. So like you see how that is kind of angled. So this originally could have been one giant rectangle parcel. That 5313 is a newer house than both of these houses. So who knows how and when, 40 or 50 years ago or maybe longer, 60, whatever, actually, it's probably more like 70 years ago.
5319 does have a crawl space in it.
5319 has a small crawl space in the front. They have a full basement that's a head height machine shop in just that addition. That's an addition, it's definitely an addition.
Okay. Any other questions? And we're just looking at lot 2 right now, so. And lot 2 requires 2 variances. On your docket, it's A and B. You guys have something you want to share with us, or?
I'm just asking Michael, he's the expert on
Yeah, he is.
So that's what the flag line is, so others still that would be the flag. I'm just trying to look at the adjacent properties to see if we can get something as conforming in
Yeah,
size to the other
you've got on
houses.
lot 1, you've got 26,000 square feet, so you can lose, 13,000 square feet and still have a good-sized lot of 13,000 in the back, so. Okay, we have a request for several variances. Any other questions of the applicants? Mac, you got anything? Okay. So, we do need to take these separate and apart. And I'm gonna disregard the frontage variance, Mike. I guess if we had to revisit it, we would. Depending on what the other variances are, if they're granted, then they definitely have to do flag lot. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we were kind of discussing right there, Steve. That way we just lose the 25-foot or the 75 road frontage
Right.
on it if they go to a flag lot, yeah.
Roger that,
Yes,
understand.
sir.
So let's look at the 6.58 side yard setback. Again, the requirement is for 10 feet. And it's that southeast corner that shows a 6.58 variance, or 6.58 side yard, and the variance would allow for that 6.58 side yard. So do I have a motion on that? I'm not hearing a motion.
Yeah. I motion to deny.
Okay. I do have a motion to deny the variance for 6.58 on the side yard. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion on that motion? Okay, let's do a roll call.
Board Member Pendley? Board Member Qualls?
Yes.
Board Member Sharp? Board Member Zitzow?
Yes.
Chairperson Leach?
No. Okay, so that variance is denied, and that's for the side yard. This is now kind of up to the applicants. You've got a denial on that, which pretty well denies the rest of them. Do you want to work with Mike any further?
clarification, so the denial is on the 3.42 feet just in the one section, then it bumps out to 13
The
feet.
southeast corner of that property. On
And
the-
it goes to 13 feet, which is over for the remainder. It's just that one.
Well, one denial so far.
Sorry, we got 2 minutes.
Yeah. What's the question?
I'm just asking because if the side yard is supposed to be 10 feet, the side yard for 98% of the side yard is 13 feet, but for the 1%, it's 6.58 feet. That's what we're getting denied for, the 3.42 feet in the 2 or 1%. I'm just
That's correct.
clarification.
Based on your site plan. We do have a 13.53 front setback, and its requirement of 25 feet. Do I have a motion on that?
This is the frontage.
Yeah, that's the frontage. It's the
Uh,
south face of that, there's an angle on that property line, proposed property line, and the angle from the front of that building to that angled property line is 13.53, and it needs to be 25 per the
Gotcha.
ordinance.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion on that?
Motion to deny.
Do we have a motion to deny? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's do another roll call.
Board Member Penley? Board Member Qualls?
Yes.
Board Member Zitzow?
Yes.
Chairperson Leach?
No. Okay, that really eliminates Lot 2 applicant. So I don't know, I'm not sure if we just need to go ahead and do that flag lot, or that 25 foot from 75 foot, but let's go ahead and do that, just so we'll have it wrapped up. So I need a motion for VR 24-1, proposed Lot 2, minimum frontage, requesting to go to 25 feet from 75 feet. Do I have a motion?
Motion to deny.
Motion to deny, do I have a second?
Yes.
I have a motion to deny, and I have a second. Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Board Member Penley? Board Member Qualls?
Yes.
Board Member Zitzow? Chairperson Leach?
No. Okay, that lot is basically not been approved as it's proposed tonight. That being the case, I'm not sure that we need to even address Lot 1 because there's no need to look at that variance on that northwest corner. So do I have a motion to,
This is on which issue?
it's Lot 2, I'm sorry, on Lot 1, the issue about the side yard.
This is VR 24-1.
Yes, the one, it's going down to 7.54. No, 6.62. That's the variance. It's, and the rear yard. I guess we just need to,
We're discussing issue C.
yeah. Yep. No, we've already done C. I don't even see that on the agenda.
C was the frontage.
Yeah, we need Lot 1, that's what we need. Well, I guess if we denied, it's not on the agenda, so if we denied all those, then, by de facto, the, Lot 1 can't be subdivided. Is that correct, Mike?
Correct.
So we don't need to do that then. So those the three variances for Lot 1, for Lot 2, I'm sorry, were denied. You need to work with staff to try to figure out what you may or may not do. Is there any way that that existing house could be moved? Wow,
On a original cinder block and foundation, and it's pitched, it's the grade.
so it's going down to the rear of the property? Okay. Well, the board has, made a determination that 3 were not, or are denied. Okay?
Yep. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
Work with the staff if you have anything else. Mike's pretty clever, so if you can work with the staff.
problem that we have is, I think this was Michael's suggestion. So I don't know
Well-
if you have suggestions for what Michael can do.
I mean, as far as this goes, I mean, I can't give you any far-wise, I mean, this is very hard to separate these two houses. You know, you're either gonna have one lot line on one or not on the other. You know, like I said, you know, I can't, you know, I can give you the information, but what this board decides is, you know what I
Up to
mean?
the
It's out of
person.
my hands at that point. I mean, this is the best-case scenario for this lot, you know?
Understood? Yeah, well, you told us, we get it.
I mean, if this came back in front of me and it was, you were trying to make a envision, you know, cross behind the duplex, with a driveway to
What?
access it on the right, I still don't even know how I'd feel about that.
I think it's easier too, if you have a chance and you're in the neighborhood, if you go and see it, it will, cause it goes down. But the rear yard for this duplex is like a football field. So there's a lot of property behind, it's just the corner. I could,
Yeah,
Cut the
and it's
corner off
fortunate, I mean, if the house on
it would be easier to.
5319 was set back further, I don't think I'd be as opposed to it. But it just seems like it's shoehorning in.
If we did a flag lot, but we just cut the corner off the front of that house, that'd be a lot easier than moving it, because we only need 3.5 feet. And if we did the flag lot, we'd get rid of the variance there.
That would go away.
We could literally cut the corner off the front of the house. That would be significantly cheaper. Look weird, but
Do you still have that issue though, Mike, with the existing duplex that the west property line is 6 feet instead of 10 feet on that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Leach.
If on the existing duplex, the northwest corner, that's down to 6.62 on the side yard and 13.44, still have those issues, right?
Yes.
Well, I think my suggestion is you work with Mike and see if you can come up with a alternative, because the board was not agreeable to those variances.
understood.
Okay, that concludes a hearing on that case. We do have another case. Let's see, this is D in the agenda, VR 2024-2, and really, VR 2024-4 are same applicants in the same location, basically, but the variances are slightly different. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Will do.
Okay, VR 2024-2, Abigail Sante, 5415 Connell Street is the applicant, to reduce side yard requirements in Article 5, Section 200, which is the R1 Residential District, Section 200, height and area regulations, subsection D. There shall be a side yard on both sides of a building of not less than 10 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance of 2.4 feet that provides a 7.6 foot side yard for Lot 13 at 1307 Pleasant Street. And let's just take this single one at a time. Both of them are similar, but Mike, they filed 2 different applications for abutting lots? Okay, so
They did.
we'll do those 2 separate then, since there are two separate lots. The applicant will come forward and present.
Lance Spencer, 25 Ridge Rock Road, Signal Mountain.
Lance?
Spencer.
Okay, Mr. Spencer?
Oh, where to start, huh? The reason why we're in here today is I had, well, what I thought was my contractor decided to go down in the city and pull permits under his own name, that he owned the lots, and then continued to build on these properties and put the foundations on, got the foundations approved, and then he started building the brick walls. Brick walls were too close to each other, which Mike saw very easily, because they're too close to each other, which in return led the job to stop completely after permits been pulled, with one of the block walls for the entire basement, it's in a flood area, so they're about 10 feet high. One of them's completely built, one of them's halfway built. And it shows that the property that we're talking about is about 3 feet too close to the property line per your code on one side only. So the variance would be just for that one side, which coexists with the other build. So it's both of the properties combined are closer. In the meantime, the contractor is in a whole different situation, being sued for fraud right now as we speak, because he's not a contractor, and he illegally pulled these permits on these properties. But now I'm in a situation, my hardship, and I am asking for help on this. Again, I know what I'm gonna have to do if you guys say no, and I'm willing to do that if you guys do say no, but at the end of the day, is the structures have been built. Yes, I understand they're incorrect, but I am looking for a variance to continue to build on these properties.
So was the original builder applicant Sante?
His name is Wallace. I don't know Asante. What's that?
Yeah, Wallace was the original builder. on it, so-
Wallace was the original builder, which also, he filled out the permits based on being the homeowner of the property, which he is not.
I was just trying to figure out who the applicant was.
I don't know who that is. That might be my actually guy that filled all the, but I had the
Okay.
survey done and I did all this.
So
And- Go ahead.
visually, looking at the place, it's not apparent when you're standing there. What's apparent looking at the site map here is that the street kind of goes visually more in line with what they are, seem to be the front of the structures. But you've got, it seems like you still have 10 feet to the right of the,
So the outside of buildings are
Fine.
fine, completely fine. It's the inside of the buildings that I guess when they were pouring the foundations, or if they thought that had to be 7 feet, they submitted the plans, but it's not even 7 feet on the one of the houses, so I
oh,
don't.
your front edge of the right-hand one.
It's
That's-
only the inner,
that's inside.
it's only the inner side property line. So it's, if you're staring at the house, it's, the one I believe we're talking about is, if the one on the right, if you're staring at the house, it's the property line on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So the side, which is supposed to be 10, and it's calling out at 7.6, so 7.5, right? Oh, yeah, 7.6.
Yeah, well, I mean, these are lots of record. They're 50-foot lots. They're narrow lots.
Yes.
So they are a little bit more difficult to work with. But, I mean, standing on Pleasant Street and looking, you can tell it's candid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why he shut the job down. Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I'm not denying that fact at all. But these are, again, they are a little narrow, and the hardship, I guess, would be that they are narrow lots. And the structures are currently there. Brand-new structures are currently there.
Well, the foundations are there.
And the foundation and the structural basement, because this isn't a flood zone,
Right.
so it's 10 feet off the ground.
Elevated,
So
yeah.
no framing has been done, but yes, the foundation and,
Well, on lot 13, it appears that was just barely started. And lot 14 is definitely up to 10 feet.
yes, which is what I said, it's about half
Yeah.
and all the way up, yes.
If those two foundations were sitting in the middle of those lots, I mean, would you have 10 feet on each side? The size of those foundations?
No, you would not. I'll tell you that.
I mean, it doesn't appear so on here.
It
just
doesn't,
doing the
I
math.
don't believe that you would.
Okay.
So even when they built it, it would be a lot closer. I will tell you that if they straighten the houses out on the lots, but it would not, I don't think it would fall. And for some reason, the builder said 7 feet side setbacks on the side yards were acceptable by the city. I am not, I am not saying that at all. I've worked with the city, I've worked with Chattanooga, and everything has always been 10-foot setbacks on the sides. So again, I am not making that point. I'm just saying that's what he told me. And he's like, no, I built him right. And it's like, clearly he did not, but there's a whole nother. This is only one of my problems that I have dealing with this contractor. So it's a little, but I'm pretty much here asking for help.
So lot 13 is really what we're looking at first, which is the one on the right as you're facing the
Yes.
and that's 7.6 inches, right?
7 feet
6 inches, right,
It says 7.6, so it should be a little over 6 inches.
right, exactly.
Just doing quick math, I'm not getting a total of 50 feet at least when I did the math on the lot 14. Just reading
Well,
the.
you
the
won't,
actual-
right? Because the front end, on lot 14, it's not 4.5. It's, the 4.5 is the smallest point. So the front point is probably 10. So if you take the front, if you can't take the 4.5 on lot 15, you have, because it wouldn't make sense, right? Because you have 13.2 in the front plus 29 plus around 10 feet or whatever that is.
Looks like about 8 feet.
Yeah, 8
Math
feet.
gets you about 8
I
feet
get
on the front
total
corner.
47.1 rather than 50 from some of those.
But the most narrow point,
That's what we did. We did the most narrow point, yes.
that's where we're heading. Let's look at lot 13 again.
Okay.
So that narrow point is 7.6, and the requirement is 10 feet. Mike, is that correct?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
On lot 13, just asking here, where are you on construction, though? It looked like a couple blocks up, and that was it.
It's about waist high on 13. So the foundation's completely been signed off. Again, it's not where it's supposed to be, but it has been. So the foundation and then the block is about waist high
So
to
you-
lower.
So
than
you have a
waist high.
slab. The slab is,
The footings. The
okay,
footings.
footings,
The
okay.
footings.
Yeah, the footings are the only things that were approved on it. And then when I came back and saw how basically the CMU blocks were up, that's when the stop work order was placed on
Okay.
it. Yeah.
I don't know what to make of this. I mean, that,
Listen, I don't
Ju-
want
just
to be
looking
here
at
anymore
the
than
site-
I have to. I understand.
I couldn't put my finger on it, but it doesn't look like any construction site I've ever seen. There's like a little portable mixer.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
CMU blocks
Uh-huh.
everywhere. It just,
Well, they had to stop. So those CMUs, if he didn't stop us, would be all the way up incorrect. So instead of halfway incorrect, they'd be all the way up incorrect if he didn't put a stop work notice. So
I'm curious how it got this far till it got noticed.
I don't, well, because once you approve the footings, you can start the walls, right? So the footings, it's not as noticeable because it's on the ground.
Yeah.
So then once you put up one, it's still not as noticeable because you only have one building up there. So Mike would drive by it and see one building, probably wouldn't even question it. Because he doesn't know where the property line is at that point or anything like that. The second you put 1 or 2 blocks up, it's gonna be almost
It's noticeable.
instantaneous. So he stopped building on that one for some reason and then decided to collect another check because he said, oh, I can build this one instead. And then started this one and then stopped because Mike put the stop work notice on it, which, again, rightfully so, and I'm not here to debate that at all.
Yeah, initially on lot 14, there was a house, right, Michael?
That's correct, yes. There was a burnout.
Yeah, so originally I was trying to fix up the house, but due to the flood area, I demoed the house, pulled permits for new construction, and then have to go straight up in the air.
And to be clear, you own both these lots.
Yes.
The lot to the left of it, as you're looking for the road, is vacant currently.
The lot to the left is not my lot. That is its own separate lot.
Yeah, the city owns that
Lot-
lot.
Lot 15.
And your intention is to build up above the floodplain. This is gonna be single family.
The only ways, yeah, it has to be that way.
And, these will be single family.
Absolutely.
Rentals.
No, I'm gonna sell them. I'll sell them to people that live in the area, so a homeowner should move in these, I would assume.
was your cost pouring the foundation on these?
I'll tell you what my cost was, and I'll tell you what I paid him. How about that? I would say the cost for the foundation, the slab is probably maybe about $30,000, roughly, give or take.
Combined
Around
for the two?
Yeah, $30,000 to $40,000. Because of my relationship with the contractor before it was tarnished and ruined, I've probably given him about $100,000 on this because he wanted the money in front so he can continue to the work, which he never continued. So that is the one of the fraudulent issues, plus listing the property, or saying he's the owner of the property, plus the other 5 or 6 permits he pulled that he wasn't supposed to in the city of Chattanooga that they also told me to call the police and report fraud on him. So I'm in a situation where this is what I'm dealing with tonight, and I have other reliable contractors ready to go, one way or another. So if this doesn't get denied, obviously I'm gonna have to do what I have to do, and I have to tear the whole thing down. It's not what I wanna do, and I'll have to obviously redraw the floor plans, I'll have to redo all the engineering and all that stuff, because the houses that are there now currently will not work on these lots if I do not get the variance, even if I move the house. So there is a lot of other expenses outside of what I've already spent to do this. Yes, I can save a lot of the block. The foundation won't be that much, but the whole process itself would probably cost me probably another additional $50,000 total that I've already spent over. But again, that's not your guys' problem, just kind of throwing it out there.
I'm curious Mike's thoughts on.
Yeah, Mike, do you have any recommendations?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you've old housing stock around East Ridge or within 5 feet setbacks on some of these older houses in some of these areas. This area around here, I mean, obviously you're looking at, when you see the way these foundations were placed on this property, you know you're dealing with a contractor that really has no idea what they're doing at this point. You can see it clearly on the paper. You know, you're looking for a lot 13, basically a 2.4 foot variance on that one for one corner. My thoughts on it, you know, lot 13 is the least intrusive on it, whereas lot 14, you know, you're looking at, 4 foot, I think. Almost a 5 foot variance on that.
It's
one,
more than 5 feet.
5.6, yeah.
It's a 5.6 variance.
Yeah.
And at this point, you cannot move these lot lines around because these are legal non-conforming, they're lots of record.
Right.
You know, you can't touch them the way they sit. But what you have here is what you have. And like I said, with a lot of those older housing stock, you have these setbacks in these areas. That's my 2 cents on it.
Is it possible to pour a foundation around an existing foundation?
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
like the
Yeah.
existing footer, could it stay in place and
Some of it could, it'd
Foundation
probably
get
be
dug to
cheaper
where
just
it should have been.
just pour a new footing, honestly. That's probably not the.
can you have a footing that exists of 2 different castings that were done at 2 different times? Like if
I'm
you were
not
to-
quite sure why you'd want, I mean,
No, it'd be
so you're
harder
talking
to do
about
that.
just kind of
Just in-
intersecting these
Just
footings like
asking in
that?
theory, if you were to leave that footer in place and pour a whole new concrete footer where it should have been,
If it doesn't intersect, if I might have to cut out some of this, yes. Like, the concrete in the ground is concrete in the ground, they don't care where the concrete is, kind of deal. But it's, to move that footing, you would have to redo the whole footing. But yes.
that's what I was, more a question from Mike. Would existing footing have to come out completely, or could it stay in place? and
It
you
would
add
not,
Add on
yes.
casting to it.
Yeah, you could leave some of that, because, I mean, honestly, there's gonna be a slab inside this thing, right? Are you gonna do a slab?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm just glad it wasn't important yet.
Mike, does the distances, particularly that lot 14, does that create a problem for fire, emergency folks?
Lot 13 does not, lot 14 does.
In terms of egress,
Well,
In
access-
terms of fire separation distance to your lot lines.
not necessarily between the structure, but between the lot.
Between the lot lines, that's correct. Once you hit that 5 foot threshold, then you're looking at rating walls at that point.
Double rating, it's double fire, or all that stuff. Meaning I would still have to go back and redraw the entire plans on lot 14, not 13, but lot 14 would have to be completely redone.
How about HVACs and all that? You just put that on
other
on
side
the-
would be
on the
fine.
other
Yeah, the
sides.
HVACs will be lifted regardless, since it is in the 100-year flood, so they'll be elevated to the base flood elevation. Normally, they put those in the rear of these properties.
So you're saying that his construction would have to be altered slightly, like he'd have to have double drywall?
Yes, on 14 for sure.
But the
Yeah.
lot we're talking about, no. So the first lot, no. we wouldn't.
13 would be fine,
13
as
would
far
be
as first response, as far as first response.
Yes.
And lot 13 is a 2.4-foot variance on the front left. Yeah. Okay, we are talking about, lot 13, so, any other discussion on lot 13 with the one variance?
My thoughts are that the variance isn't consequential, that I don't see reason not to allow it, even though the intended use is to sell it. I think at the end of the day, it's still conforming to the setback. The street will still have the same, as you look down the street, it's still same distance from the road. The construction here would be bringing up a street that it does seem to be in decline. That's my thoughts on it. It doesn't, the variance doesn't seem to cause any negative impact to the neighbors. It would be an upside to the adjoining properties, and that development seems to be needed on that street.
Was that a motion?
This is for lot,
That's just a point of discussion.
Okay.
We're still at
for
discussion.
lot 13, right?
Correct. And that's the 2.4.
Yeah, that's the
Got a
lesser
little-
variance.
A little inset on that, lot 13, on the foundation. Is there you got a little bit of a notch on that front of that? Is there
It's just aesthetic. It's more just for aesthetic. It's
Okay.
just so it pops out a little bit, has a little more curb appeal.
yeah, and that's the short point right there. If it was out a little bit and matched the other side, then we have more of a variance.
Yes, that's very true.
Say that again?
Well, this little inset right here,
It wouldn't be much, but it would be.
it would cause you to have a
Couple
little bit
inches.
more of a variance, yeah.
If it didn't come as far forward.
As the right side of the house if you're staring at it.
Okay, on lot 13, which is D on our agenda, do I have a motion?
Like a
2.4 feet, provide for 7.6 side yard on the,
South side, south elevation.
which this is. Proposal D is which lot? 13,
That's lot 13.
One on the
13.
top of the, yeah.
and it's for the south edge, bringing it down to,
10 feet to 7.6.
put a motion to approve.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, Mac? Anything? Let's do a roll call.
Board Member Pendley? Yes. Board Member Qualls?
Yes.
Board Member Zitzow?
Yes.
Chairperson Leach?
Yes. Okay, let's go, and that was D on the agenda. Let's go to E. Lot 14, and again, that's the one with the rear corner, northwest corner. It has a 4.4, needs a, 4.4 side yard, and it needs a variance of 5.6 feet.
Are you entertaining motions?
I am entertaining motions.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second on that motion?
That's to make that corner 10 feet.
No, it'd be a 10-foot requirement,
Yeah.
and it's gonna go down to 4.4 feet. Have a motion, a second. Any other further discussion? Mike, do you have any other discussion? Okay.
I do not, no.
The motion is to approve the variance request. Let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Board Member Pendley? Board Member Qualls?
Yes.
Board Member Zitzow?
Yes.
Chairperson Leach?
Yes. Okay, you guys have been approved. Now, with the building permit, guys need to get squared away on that building permit.
Completely understand that's what I was about to ask him. But so the building permit will be fine on one, but not fine on the other one, correct?
No, both of them got approved.
Yes, they both got approved. But what I'm talking about is the plans are fine for one and not the other. How about that?
That's correct.
That's what I was
Yes,
asking,
yes.
yes.
That is
Yes,
true.
that's what I was
Because of
asking, yep.
Because of the variance granted tonight, you'll have to
New
introduce the fire.
firewall. Mhm.
Right. Well, that's a separate
rated
building.
wall.
It's a building code issue that we don't,
No,
address.
no, I get it. That's what I was trying to ask him, so we're good. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, good luck with that, and make sure you hang in with the mic, because it sounds like to me you guys need some.
So now that's finished,
Ask away.
I'm just curious. So in general, the cost to put a foundation is about 15 grand
Roughly, yeah.
size
Yeah.
range?
Yeah, for the footings and stuff like that?
So
Yeah,
you
'cause-
got roughly
So
15
there's
grand.
there's
on each
grading, there's excavating, and then there's the concrete. So depending on how big the actual footings are, it can be $15,000 to $25,000, yes.
Then how'd you end up in so much cost just with these?
Well,
just with
the way I
blocks
worked
past
is,
that?
like, we have a few properties going on, right? So to keep him moving forward,
Oh, and on these
I
other
do
ones.
advances.
Gotcha.
So I did an advance on this one, which was completely wrong and stupid of me. So yes.
Well, you can close your argument with that. Well, good luck, and just, what's the hydraulics on that? Do they have to, is it just because it's in a 100-year flood, is that what it's in?
Yes,
not
because it's
floodway.
located in the special flood hazard area, the 100-year, yes, he's got to introduce flood vents, and it's got to be raised 1 foot above the
So the
base flood.
hydraulics are the venting and all that?
Yes, that is correct.
Is that already in place?
There are some, so when Mr. Wallace had started the, the project, the foundation vents are there, the flood vents are not in as we speak right now,
So
but they
you-
will be required by the end, yeah.
Hydraulic.
Hydraulics mean if it's pressure against the wall,
Yeah, the hydrostatic pressure on those walls.
will collapse it. If it's not vented correctly, if it's not allowed to essentially flow.
Yeah.
So you just have a huge hydraulic pressure on that.
So if it's 9 feet underwater, the whole thing won't collapse on itself. So you have to hold it out. The vents kind of keep the
Wow.
pressure on there and just keep it from collapsing.
It balances the pressure, so you're
Yeah.
not losing a wall. You're filling up the basement, but you're not.
Yeah, those flood waters continue to move
Yep.
through that building as they flow, so.
Does a foundation built in a flood have a different requirement? A
Not for
thicker, or
strength-wise.
deeper?
Go ahead.
I'm asking.
No, I mean, you just got to introduce flood vents to it, and it depends on how much backfill you place against the walls, depending, that would set into motion what type of rebar has been setting, concrete cells filled and so forth, so, just depending on the size of the walls, it go from 8-inch to 12-inch CMUs, I mean, and it goes on, so, yeah.
But the biggest expense for flood versus non-flood is definitely the basement above ground.
The height.
Yeah, the height of it.
Just-
Because instead of building, 2 or 3 feet off the ground, you're building 10 to 12 feet off the ground. And obviously the labor to build the actual structure is going to be a little more too, because now you're 12 feet off the ground building a house versus 2 or 3 feet off the ground. So you have scaffolding, all that other stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you look at like Car-Mart and then integrated properties that are in that area, you'll notice how they've been elevated on fill. That's basically the height of these
Exactly.
houses, yeah.
So it's like the garage is underneath and they'll have a garage door and then the house will sit way above the garage.
And that goes for commercial buildings too, and they can actually flood-proof. They can have, closures and such that kind of monitor.
Only for non-residentials,
Right.
yeah, they can flood-proof those with engineered seal, yeah.
So it's a different animal.
Sure is.
Okay, so you know what?
I
work with
know what I
Mike.
need to do and I appreciate you guys
Good luck.
very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have continuing ed, and I know it's kind of late, but let's go ahead and press on with that, since I did all the work on it. Several months ago when we met last, Mitch made a really good comment. Do you remember that, Mitch? How good your comment was? Okay.
I'll take credit for it, but I don't, no.
Okay. Here's a handout. His comment was, which was a great comment, was, what happens to abandoned real property? Do you remember that comment?
What happens to what?
To abandoned real property?
Maybe.
Yeah, you sure do.
Sounds great.
So, we were talking a little bit about adverse possession, the legal theory of adverse possession, and we can go into that if you want to. But it didn't, your question didn't focus on adverse possession. It was related to abandoned property. What happens on abandoned property? And, it's interesting because, in science class, I know we all took science classes, there was something, they said, nature abhors a vacuum. And that's a kind of an idiom, but it just means that things will not remain empty, whether it be in physics. And in real property, it's interesting because that really kind of applies to real property. In other words, you can't just have abandoned property all over the place and it's never reused. It's fallow property and it's never reused. So there are certain processes that are now in place that assures that if a piece of property, and it can be abandoned for many reasons. I was talking to somebody the other day about abandoned cemeteries. I don't know if we have any in the city of East Ridge, but abandoned cemetery, think about this, family cemetery, it was on a farmstead, and the family's all deceased, or nobody even knows where the cemetery, that nobody gets buried there anymore. So the cemetery's abandoned, but it's still taxable. It's still on tax rolls. Or another one is a person dies without any heirs, and they don't have any way of, they didn't have their property in a trust or anything like that. So the property's abandoned, essentially. Or one of another one was a failure to pay taxes, and that's sort of what we'll talk a little bit about a little bit further. But the other one, and Mike is probably familiar with this, stormwater detention ponds. And I had to wrestle with this a lot because a developer goes in and you're required to do a stormwater detention pond. They can be huge or they can be smaller. Some of them are huge. And the developer has, like those guys, will have to take care of that stormwater detention facility as long as there's property being sold. And as soon as that last piece of property is sold, they start looking around for somebody because it's generally on a separate piece of ground. Sometimes they've combined them with I'm just going to give you this property. And it's got a little swale to it, but it'll fill up with water occasionally, but don't worry about it.
I understand a lot of that infrastructure is made by developers gets
Well,
given to the
to the
municipality.
Well, homeowners association is generally the first choice, but
Yeah.
if there's not a HOA, then all of a sudden the developer's walked, he's gone. The homeowner association didn't accept it. It's not on somebody else's piece of property, and it's just there. The city of Chattanooga, for example, we had a program where we would actually go in and maintain these things because they do require maintenance, these stormwater facilities. So anyway, but generally they are a taxable piece of property that just sits there, and nobody's paying taxes on it. And I've seen them coming in on tax sales, and we'll talk about that. And people bid on them, think they can build a house, and then they find out, oh, you can't do anything, and this is a big old pond. So anyway, generally they come about with failure to pay property taxes. That's sort of the where you see them the most. And the remedy for these abandoned properties is that local government, like City of Chattanooga, or I'm not sure about East Ridge, either do a 2 or 4 year term where you don't have to pay. If you hadn't paid taxes on it, you're delinquent, but for 2 or 4 years, they won't send it over, and then they send it over to the clerk and master's office for disposition. And what I handed out to you is they do a back tax sale property. And if you'll look at it, I think it said in this one, 4 years delinquent. So if your taxes are 4 years delinquent, they will sell the property essentially at auction. And then that property belongs to somebody, except you don't really own it in fee simple. You own it with the right of the original property owner to come back and get it. There's a year interim period where they can actually come back and reacquire their property. Anyway, this was a 2021. This is the latest. Yeah, exactly. And there was they sold 90 properties that year, and there were 94 in the tax sale. So that's kind of a hot commodity, and people go and bid, particularly if you're a budding property owner. A lot of times people buy them as a budding property owner, and it's based on taxes plus all the court fees. Now, that 1 year redemption period is the one that most people don't even know about. So it's difficult sometimes to explain to them. You own the property, you bought it, but you can't do anything with it, and for a year. And then if it's not sold, and say in that first one there was 90 properties sold and there were 94 in the sale. So those 4 then go to Hamilton County Real Property, who conducts another sale. And I've got that information for you. And they do a sale, and they will issue you a quitclaim deed if you're the one that actually purchased it. I'm sorry. And the quitclaim just says, whatever interest we have in it, we're going to give it to you. We're going to sell it to you. I did ask the person I knew at Hamilton County, what happens if it doesn't sell again? And that's happened before. They can transfer it to for a public use. I know there's a fire station that was built on Long Street. I know it's an ambulance service built on Long Street because the property went through back tax with trustee, then it went to the real property, nobody wanted it. And finally, it was just held, again, abandoned property, held by the county in perpetuity, I guess, until they said, oh, we need an ambulance station. So anyway, here's the process for the real property. They have a sale listing, and I even included for you to look at the last page. This is what they sold. And if you'll look at the listing on here, it lists it there. If you look, it says on the top left, it says type V, which is vacant lot. If there's a structure on them, and sometimes there are structures on them, but look at the prices. Their prices, some of these prices are pretty good. And that generally means it's in a subdivision area. And these are bid up. I've been to these auctions before, and they're bid up. So they just don't say it's $1,000, and we hope. Here's one that was about the 5th one down, Coblentz Circle. I don't know where that is, and it was minimum bid was $1,000, and it sold for $32,000. So some of this stuff could be valuable property, and it just has been, for whatever reason, one of those stated reasons, it's been abandoned by the original owner. But there is a long process to answer your question. There is a long process, Mitch, to get these back on the tax rolls and to get them back in use so they're not fallow property. So, look it over. It's kind of fun to try to research some of this stuff. I knew some of it, but not all of it.
It's interesting to know that on Long Street, my daughter goes to elementary school right there, and I always wondered how That ambulance service ended up in the middle of that neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah,
Granted, that would be a very valuable piece of land now,
it would.
with everything built up around it.
It would, and that station's probably built 10 or 15 years ago, I bet. I don't know what the county did, but they spotted that piece of property and said, we need an ambulance service right there, so that's what they did. Okay, if you have any other questions, we can continue on that, or we can do, Mitch had a good question, and it really does go back a long way in history about the vacant lots in Chattanooga. I used to deal with them a lot, and sometimes they were useful, and we tried to collect some near the National Cemetery for the expansion of the cemetery, and occasionally they would come in, but like Mitch said, a lot of that property now that was not worth a whole lot is worth a whole lot
For the
now.
whole lot now.
Yeah, and my understanding is not a lot of them, and Mike may know this, but a lot of them are not. They're no longer abandoned because the value of property is too high. So people don't abandon them and walk away from them. A lot of times they're just families that don't know anything about it. Family farms or whatever, and they're all scattered all over the United States, or there were no heirs, but that's not like it used to be. Yeah, and they do a lot of research to try to find out if there are any heirs or anything like that, because otherwise somebody might buy the property and then in that reclamation period somebody, that belonged to Uncle Fester, and we really want to claim that. So then you'd have to get a quitclaim deed from them to quit any claims they have on that property. So anyway, good question. I'm always open to questions. So that's all we got. Okay, and we have one next month. Okay, and that date is,
Is that the 10th? Yeah, the 10th.
so the next meeting will be the 10th of June.